Anyway, so it's 10:01, so I think we need to begin. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Business Essentials, sponsored by the San Mateo Area Chamber of Commerce. We will have you muted throughout the program, and then if you have a question at the end, Pauline will unmute you, read the question, and Rick can answer it for you. I'm very pleased to introduce Rick Raybin, who is a fellow Rotarian as well as a very active chamber member in San Mateo. And he's going to talk to us today about sheltering your finances while sheltering in place, which I think is a very important topic currently. And Rick is quite accomplished. You can read his bio online, and he's written a book. So he's been in the financial world for many, many years, and he's quite knowledgeable. So with that, I am going to let Rick take it away.
Enjoy. Well, thank you very much, Cheryl. So with all this going on right now, let me start up a slide deck I have to present for today. And we'll do it over here and share this, and let me start it. Here we go. And so the idea I have is to really, let's talk about when we have, as we're sheltering in place, what are the important things? And especially with all the trauma that so many people are dealing with, what's the first thing you need to know? And the first thing you need to know really is that cash is king. Whenever we're really dealing, as we have in the past, where finances become very critical to us, we really need to make sure we have enough cash. And so what's the first thing you need to do as that situation becomes so important is make sure you have sufficient cash reserves. The difference between having enough or not having enough is a critical consideration. And so the first thing, if cash is tight, the first thing you have to do is stop spending. Make sure that you just get a grip. Just make sure that you don't keep, it's the classic, if you're in a hole, what do you have to stop doing is quit digging. So just stop spending. And with all the press that we've had recently, you really want to look at what the SBA, what Congress has done. And there are a number of programs of the Small Business Administration. They have a website where they list a number of loan and debt relief options. And I would recommend anyone who has this issue to go there. And there are 4 main areas they have listed that you can look at. One is something that there's gotten a lot of press recently called the Paycheck Protection Program, PPP. And how well it's working is subject to some issue. Another one is an economic injury, disaster loan emergency advance. I'll talk about that in a second. The next 2 are for ongoing SBA borrowers, and there's some bridge loans and debt relief that they have. Going back to this Paycheck Protection Program, they've had some trouble rolling that out. But if you have an ongoing relationship with a bank that has this, that is eligible to participate in that, you want to work with them. And they call it a loan, but anyway, if you keep your payroll intact for 8 weeks, you can use it for payroll, rent, mortgage interest, and utilities, and it'll be forgiven. So it's free money for you. So you need to take advantage of it. And so work with your banker to apply for this. The next one is this Economic Injury Disaster Loan Emergency Advance. It's a $10,000 application. You'd fill it out online. I did it the other day. I have to go back and see, because I've been told some things happened since I applied. But it's another one that you will not have to repay. So I started looking up what the interest rate was on it. And then I saw this little thing about not repaying it. And I realized interest rate doesn't really matter. It's another thing to look at. It's a very quick, less than 10 minutes to fill it out online. If you qualify, you'll find out right away. If you're an ongoing borrower with the SBA, they have this bridge loan is $25,000 limit, and there's certain types of loans. That's not an area I'm an expert in. There are other members of the chamber who can help you. but you can look into these relief elements. This debt relief is like 6 months of deferrals. It's, once again, they can explain it on the website, but these are areas that are right away you want to look into, and these are special for these current circumstances, and you really want to make sure that you're on top of it. And I really recommend for anyone who these are issues for to look at, get a handle on, and that would be a first line in this current environment to be looking into. The next thing you want to do is there is, before the CARES Act, I misspelled it here, but they've talked a lot early on about the stimulus checks or recovery rebates. And depending on what your income is and your situation on how to apply for these types of checks, and I think they're starting to get them out now. There was some controversy about how long it was going to take for them to get to you, but they're now rolling those out. And so you want to make sure that if you're eligible for those, to make sure that you're taking advantage of that. These are important ones. This is their effort to just to keep the economy floating so people can pay rent and do other things and pay for groceries and all the other elements that keep us all going. And this is all if cash is tight. Other things are more, other things that came through the CARES Act are in case that you need to draw down on your pension distributions, your IRA. You will not, if you're under age 59 and a half, where you would have in the past had to pay a penalty, they're waiving that for right now. And they're providing extended unemployment benefits. So those are all things right now that are above and beyond what were there before. And so these are important benefits that they're making available to people. Beyond that, we go to what is traditionally available and what you'd recommend to people who are in tight situations. If you have people who owe you money, if you're in business or otherwise, collect all the monies owed to you as soon as possible. This is a classic arrangement. Just make sure you're getting out there and collecting what you can as soon as you can. Even if it's sooner than usual, you want to try to go out there as quickly as you can. Now, one thing I would caution anyone, there is a way of trying to get into an arrangement to accelerate collecting your receivables. Is called factoring. I had a client a number of years ago who got into signed up for a factor arrangement, and I got to see what one of those contracts are. My attorney and I agreed we did not have a conscience that would allow us to write that kind of a document. They're so aggressive, and I would not recommend ever doing something like that. But other than that, you want to try to accelerate your receivables as much as you can. Consider refinancing any debts. Interest rates today are pretty low. They've gotten lower. They spiked a little bit recently, but see what you can do to get better terms if you have a mortgage or other types of debts. The key here is you want to make sure the leverage is the right kind of, you don't want to over leverage, because then like in 2008, we saw what happened where people got into too much debt and then they ended up losing everything. So you want to try to find the right balance, but you want to explore that and see what you can do. Of course, if things get so bad, you have to do what you can to survive. So this is all really depending on what your situation is and how far you need to go out to do things like that. Talk to your landlord, talk to anybody you owe money to. First thing you do, instead of just stringing things out, talk to people that you owe money to about, making arrangements, delaying payments and the like, reducing the amounts you owe, see what you can work out. Because at the end of the day, they've got to make a decision on what terms they're going to take. It's going to be better to work it out with you than trying to do something else. Because, they need to get money, and trying to get into legal action is very costly, and most likely they're going to end up getting less than they would otherwise. So you're better off talking to them. Talk to your credit card companies about delaying payments with no penalty or reducing their interest rate. They get this. They understand that you're not the only one they're going to be talking to, and they're going to be making judgments, and they're going to be adjusting their policies. And they get this, and they're dealing with a lot of people, and they're in the process of adjusting right now. So do that. You owe it to yourself to find out how good a deal, make me a deal you can't refuse. and you want to do that. I'm not sure where the credit cards companies are these days about their, they have those teaser rates, those teaser deals where you can move that, but you should explore that. There's NerdWallet and others that will tell you about the different types of zero interest rate offers and the like. You should explore that if that's where you are and you want to try to move money around and see what you can find out. See what kind of deals you can do for yourself just to extend yourself effective credit, better credit than you can otherwise. This is just a way to try to do this. Once again, these are all things you can do to stretch out your money better than you have right now. Okay? So those are all things that you're looking at if things are really tight. So you want to really cut down your spending and just find different ways to get your money so your cost of your money that you have is a lot cheaper than you might otherwise. So on the other side is if you have sufficient funds, now we're talking about the world of wealth management, which is the world I normally live in, trying to help people with. And that's really a luxury. So in this world that we have kind of collapsing on us, we still have people, and a number of us still have money. And what do we do with the money we have? How do we make sure that works for us? And when we're talking about wealth management, really there are two parts to it. One is making sure we have a plan, develop a wealth plan. And then the next part of it is we need to make sure we implement it. It's kind of like, go on a diet. It's one thing to plan for a diet or an exercise plan. The next part is you have to do it. And I'm not the best example of that right now. So when we look at that, if you have savings, you need to continue saving on a regular basis. And I have a number of clients that right now all of a sudden realize they're not spending what they needed all the money for because we're all sheltering in place and they're not, some of the vacation plans or travel plans or otherwise. So it's a great opportunity to save more. But so that would be one of the adjustments that they're having to make. You might be needing to make, but you want to continue to save on a regular basis. And especially if you have an IRA or a Roth IRA and you're eligible to contribute to that, you want to make sure that you're taking full advantage of those. One of the gifts that the stock market gave to a lot of people recently was paper losses on their investments. And so we do what's called harvesting. As you have different positions that you have that now look on paper to be losses, you want to go through and look at how to harvest those losses. So this year on your tax return, you won't have as much in income taxes that you're going to have to pay. And so that's one of the strategies that you would look at this year is harvest your tax losses. Another strategy we want to look at is consider Roth IRA conversion. So you have an IRA, and particularly if you have an income where you can't contribute directly into a Roth IRA, you can convert an IRA to a Roth IRA and it'll be a taxable event, but at least you can get that money. So in the future, when you take it out of the Roth, you'll never have to pay any income on that. And so that's one of the strategies that you would look at. And I just alluded to it, consider making Roth IRA contributions if your income allows you, it makes it so that you're eligible. Earlier I talked about the idea of refinancing your mortgage debts or other debts. That would be something else that you would look at. And when we get into investing, which is the other part in a wealth management, often the dominant part of an investment plan, this is really about following your investment plan. And the things that you can control in an investment plan, I come out of the world of real estate. Earlier in my career, I was a CFO of a real estate investment company. And in real estate, the first three rules of real estate are location, location, location. And in the case of an investment portfolio like this, it's asset allocation are the first three rules. That's the most important decision that you can make. And so you want to make sure you focus on the asset allocation, how much you have in stocks versus bonds or what type of stocks you own. And then the next thing you can control is what type of manage your costs, how you effectively make sure that you control those costs. And then the third part of it is almost like a recycling thing where you rinse and repeat. And it's just maintaining your discipline of what your allocation is and managing your costs. And that really came out recently, and it's not really that widely been published, but a couple of indices had a little glitch in them because they have something where they change what stocks they include and they change over at certain periods of time, and they had to not do that in March because of all the volatility, and that's a real issue. And so that exposed how difficult it is sometimes to manage those. And that's one of those issues about maintaining your discipline. And that's a very important issue. And I'm going to write some more about that. But anyway, so those are the things that are really important about your investment plan. And Cheryl talked about earlier a book I wrote, which I'm really proud of, and explains really the history of modern investing. And if anyone on the call would like a copy of it, let me know. I'll be glad to get you a copy of it. I'm real proud of this. In fact, I got an incredible endorsement. This is from Mac McClown. Mac led the team that at Wells Fargo and in the 60s and early 70s actually developed index funds. And I spoke with him in December at the Commonwealth Club. And I'm working with him and one of his colleagues right now. We're considering another book that really talks about what they did when they developed index funds, the whole history of that, their effort to do that. So I'm really proud. Well, let me go back to, so he was nice enough to read the book and said this nice little thing about, complimented me on that, and nice enough that he continued on, and we actually did this presentation in December at the Commonwealth Club, and it was well received. So I feel very flattered by him. So why don't we open this up for questions now? I kind of raced through that, but give plenty of time for the questions.
There are no questions in the chat, but if you'd like to unmute one at a time, you can ask Rick your questions or type them in the chat.
Well, think about it. She comes to the meetings, but honestly, so you've got the twins. You've got Brandy never says a word. I'm not even sure she's read the book. And then you've got her sidekick, Mary. Yeah, I was going to say Mary Lynn, who won't stop.
No questions? Or do you need me to unmute you?
Can you hear me now? I'm sorry. I was asking about cash. When you talk about cash, are you talking about cash in the bank, cash that you have in your wallet, under your mattress? What does that constitute exactly? Is it IRAs or bonds, whatever? And then how much cash should you have?
When I'm thinking about cash, it's really what you're going to need to spend on it's really what you need to be able to afford your groceries and rent and things like that you can support yourself. I'm not thinking so much for an investment. So old rules of thumb were 3 to 6 months of spending is really what I'm talking about here, that you have that and you can feel comfortable. One of the rules of thumb I use for my clients is also that you can sleep at night. So a lot of this is what you're going to feel, that you're going to have a sense of security. And that's going to be really the important measure that you have for yourself. If your income is such that it's real sporadic and you're not sure where your next paycheck or next inflow is, and if you're someone who's been on a deal by deal basis, you're some sort of commission type income, and it comes and you're not sure how the next deal flow is coming, that may be more dicey than someone's accustomed to a regular flow and that you still see that coming. It all depends on your circumstances.
Thank you. I'll ask something else. Does anyone know the PPP program? If you furlough somebody, does that, I thought that would still make you eligible for that program.
I'm not expert per se. I would want us to consult with some others. I think there may be some CPAs and others who've gone in deeper into this and there would be better resources. We have some other members of the chamber who I think probably can better answer that detail.
Okay, thank you.
She never called him Clint, ever. She called him Mr. Hill. And to me, that was a respect, because she could have easily called him.
Anyone else?
No, the chat is quiet.
Okay, well,
It's marvelous, and the places that he got to go.
I'm glad I could answer it so fully that,
Well, Laura just chimed in. Would you like to unmute Laura?
Sure.
Thanks, Laura.
Thanks, Rick, for doing this. I went through and applied for the EIDL about a week ago, and just this morning I got the email back about it. And one thing that I noticed in there, which I think might have been a change, was that it is limited. This $10,000 that's not required to be repaid is now tied to the number of employees that were on staff at January 31st. So it's $1,000 per employee to get to the $10,000 total.
the EIDL had nothing to do with employees before.
That's what I thought too. But that was a question that was on the application. And so, you know, I know you mentioned that there had been some changes to it. Maybe that was one of the ones that had come through.
Oh my. Oops. There goes my
Because
old-
I swear when I applied for it last week, it didn't say anything about that.
Yeah. Oops. So much for the self-employed on that.
Oh, there's Steve Parker. Hi, Steve.
Yeah, he said it was a surprise to him as well. He had the same message.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same message this morning, and it was a surprise to me.
Wow.
That nowhere before did they say anything about it was tied to the number of employees, but they're probably short of funds, and so that's their way of trying to allocate.
Yeah.
would be
Yeah,
my
they're
guess.
going through a lot of adjustments. You know, they came out with these programs and they've now realized they don't have the mechanisms in place to effectively distribute it. And so they're scrambling on how to make some adjustments so they can at least start getting some things out. And they're also in the process trying to figure out who's going to get what first. And there's a real battle there between different political constituencies. So it's hard to say how it's going to play out. I'm getting also a separate question about real estate. So let me speak to that a little bit. I just put out a piece to my clients about that. I've been somewhat negative on real estate because I've just thought of it as being so overpriced from an investment standpoint for so long. From my background, when I was at Reef in the 80s, we were in buying properties. In fact, it had come down. When I had first started, we were buying properties at 8 or 9% cap rate. So it means that the rents would, current yield would be around 8 or 9%. And we would be able to have inflate and rents grow at such that the returns would be 9, 10% internal rate of returns as we buy the properties and such. And today you'd buy a good property and it'd be like a 3 or 4% return when you buy them at the beginning. And it's hard to imagine because in order to get a high return off of that kind of beginning return, that means you have to grow the rents way above the inflation rate. And it also assumes that the person buying it from you assumes that it's going to be the same kind of program for them and et cetera. It's going to be a never ending thing. And I just think that's unrealistic. And it has been for quite a while. And especially if you look at the pressures that the retailers have with Amazon and everything else, you look at what's happened right now with the shelter in place and what that means to the future of offices and stuff. There are a lot of risks involved. And I'd be, so I've actually, a couple of weeks ago, sent a note to my clients suggesting that we get out real estate across the board. And so I'd be very concerned, particularly in the Bay Area, about real estate as an asset class. And that's how I viewed it.
Oh, that's good information. So Rick, based on your experience, what do you think people should be asking at this point in time?
Should be what?
Should be asking.
What do you mean by asking?
What do you think people should be really concerned about?
Well, first of all, you talking about from an investment standpoint, investing in their investment portfolios, or just the whole idea of their financial plans?
Yeah, yeah, whole
So
idea.
generally what we tell people is you want to focus in on really your own financial plan is what you want to do in your life. How do you want to live your life and make sure you have the resources that will support you to live the life that you want. And that's the most important thing that you can do is just live the life you want the way you want, and then just make sure that you have the resources to do that. And as far as the way the market, investment markets are, the history guides you. The idea of trying to second guess or think that you can outpredict everybody else. What we've seen in history and what the academics and those who've really studied the market the most and really follow the data tell us is the current values are the best estimate of the future values, and the returns are what they are. And trying to do more than that is really folly. And so what we really advise people is develop a plan that's going to work for you, accept what the market tells you, and just stay the course and be disciplined about it. Control what you can control, focus on yourself and what you can really do that's best for you. And that's the best thing you can do. And get a good team of advisors to keep you grounded and people that you really trust and respect you. Those are the best things.
Great, thank you. Any other questions for Rick? Cheryl, want to wrap us up?
Sure. So thank you, everyone. We have another Business Essentials later this week, Thursday, April 16th at 10 a.m. We'll hear from two guest speakers, Sheba Varghese, an executive leadership coach, and Mark Allen, the managing partner of Growmar. And they're going to talk about using remote workers, more time and lower cost. Is it even possible? So I think that'll be very interesting in this COVID time that we are going through at the moment. If you would like to join us, please register, and then Pauline will send you out a link.
Yeah.
So with that, have a great day. Pauline, do you want to add anything else?
Rick, are we able to send out your slide deck to the?
Oh, sure. And if anybody wants to contact me, I have on the screen my contact information. Be glad to follow up. And if anybody wants a contact, a copy of the book, let me know. Be glad to get it to you.
Great. Thank you so much. So I'll send out the replay, the slide deck, and Rick's contact information is in the slide deck. Thank you so much. We'll see you
Great.
Thursday.
Yep. Have a great afternoon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Thank you.